Today on Monkey Life, sadness as one of the park's most iconic characters passes away.
Paddy's gone. His loss is going to be felt right the way around the park.
But happy memories of a much-loved primate.
Paddy was dignified from the moment I saw him till the moment he died. You know, I think people could learn an awful lot from Paddy.
And puzzle solving in the trees for golden-cheeked gibbons Kim and Tien. Monkey World in Dorset, buried deep in the English countryside, is the largest sanctuary of its kind on the planet. The team, led by Dr. Alison Cronin, rescue and rehabilitate abused and unwanted primates from all over the world.
They're all going to have a chance to live proper lives again. Perfect.
The park provides a home for more than 250 monkeys and apes from 20 different species. It's been a traumatic start to the day at the park, leaving everyone feeling a sense of shock and loss. And nowhere more so than at the chimp enclosures. There's usually a lot of noisy excitement as they head outside in the morning, but today they're quiet and subdued. Overnight, Paddy, the longtime leader of his group, died in his sleep. For park director Alison, it feels like the end of an era.
Probably one of the most serious things for one of our chimp group has indeed happened, and Paddy's gone. He died of natural causes, and I do know, because I have had the initial reports back, it was heart failure, not a heart attack or anything like that. Then it was Paddy's time. He was an older boy, probably the best leader we've ever had here at the park, and his loss is going to be felt right the way around the park.
Paddy was a very special and unusual chimp. He was one of the original group of 9 rescued primates to arrive at the park in 1987 and was their leader from the start. His reign has lasted ever since, nearly 30 years. Many of those original chimps remained with him in the same group. They were all rescued from abysmal lives as Spanish beach photographers' props, having been stolen from the wild. Chimps like Paddy were the reason Alison's late husband, Jim Cronin, set up the park in the first place.
Paddy's one of the founders of Monkey World. I've got lovely photographs of him as a youngster arriving here, and Jim and Jeremy looking after them. And he went on to just be a very kind-hearted, good, caring person, which is, of course, all of the characteristics you need to be a dominant male to make friends, influence the ladies, and of course, he was big, beautiful, and gorgeous, and that set him up to be the leader of his group. And I hazard to say, and it's not many people or chimps you can say that about, everybody loved Paddy.
Jeremy, who worked alongside Jim when the park first opened, remembers Paddy from day one.
My lasting sort of impression of Paddy was he was the one who really didn't want to know. It was, I believe it was between I probably wrote it in a diary. In fact, I must have written it in a diary. It was between 18 months and 2 years before Paddy actually let me touch him, have any contact with him at all. He was very aloof. Nothing horrible. He didn't try to kill me. He didn't want me dead. You know, yeah, you're right. Stay there. No, stay there. We're good. There was no animosity, nothing unpleasant. He just didn't need. Very, very self-contained individual.
Paddy was the largest of the first arrivals and took charge early on. Jeremy admired him from the very beginning.
He was a fantastic leader, in my opinion, because he didn't get involved in trivia. If anything really needed sorting out, he was in there. And he'd sort it. But general people being horrible to him, he wouldn't get involved unless he really needed to, which is, for a chimp, that's pretty remarkable because they're so volatile. They don't need an excuse to flare up and have a go at people. They do it anyway. Whereas Paddy would never do that. He always very much in charge. Nobody would contest his authority, but he did it by persona, he did it by just being there. He didn't have to do anything else. And that really, was, you know, was very, very nice. You know, I think people could learn an awful lot from Paddy.
He recalls the day Paddy and his pals first arrived.
Lorry full of boxes of chimps arrived, and we had the house set up ready, so you know, we let them all out, they were fine, give them something to eat, whatever. And then in the morning, got this pile of boxes there. Oh, they've got the names on the boxes. Now, which one's which? I don't know. I got sort of enough information to put together. Who are you? Well, there's only 3 females, and one's only got half a foot, so that must be Beth. One's obviously bigger than the rest, so that must be Cindy. And then the little girl has got to be Zoe, because she's a little girl. And Paddy's got to be Paddy, because he's a big, you know, he's obviously the big male. He's obviously, you know, a little bit older than anybody else, and, you know, he radiated being in charge, so yeah. And the rest were just monkeys.
And throughout his time at the park, 37-year-old Paddy never changed, despite the stresses leadership of a big group can bring. The other chimps looked up to him as a leader and a friend, and his position was never challenged.
He was consistent. You never saw Paddy in a bad, or very rarely would you see Paddy in a bad mood. You'd see him in soppy moods occasionally, but you'd never see him really angry, because he didn't get involved enough. He'd say, right, bye-bye. You don't do angry. Cheerio.
Paddy's family benefited hugely from his calm leadership, and over the years remained settled and happy. The care team recognised Paddy was responsible for the group's harmony and success.
Paddy was a real special animal, a magnificent male, a fabulous leader. He was extremely fair, extremely kind, and had the ability to settle any disputes. The stability of Paddy's community was testament to him, really, and how secure he was in his role, and what a good job he'd done.
But it wasn't just the staff at the park who came to know what a special chimp Paddy was.
To the visitors, I'm sure, you know, Paddy was an iconic character. He was, you could pick him out of a crowd because he was so physically magnificent. But obviously to the primate care staff, he was also an animal that we were extremely attached to and that we enjoyed watching over the years running his community.
And the much-loved chimp left behind a legacy.
As the years passed, we decided that perhaps we would let 1 or 2 babies come into this group because it's important for their culture and society, and it brings the group together. And even then, that many years later, so Paddy's been an orphan, been smuggled out of Africa into Spain, come to Monkey World as a youngster, grown up, become alpha male, in charge of his group. Then for the first time, he becomes a father, and guess what? He's brilliant at that too. Absolutely fabulous, and looked after his firstborn, Hebe, just brilliantly.
Paddy later also fathered Eddie and Bart.
They've sort of had a good, stable upbringing, and they had their dad who was brilliant and used to carry them on his back. So it's hard to say who's worse affected by Paddy's passing. His band of adult females who are thinking, where's our man and our leader? Or the youngsters who relied upon their dad for safety, protection, comfort, and love.
Although devastated by Paddy's loss, Alison and the team are thankful that after a terrible start in life, he was able to live out his years in a safe and caring environment.
He was the leader of the community and the individual that the animals looked up to. He was an individual that other chimps went to for reassurance. They went to if they were upset. You know, he was obviously a friend, he was a father, you know, so he played so many roles, and he did each one, you know, with such grace. So yeah, a really special character.
I think the one word which totally encompasses Paddy is dignified. Paddy was dignified from the moment I saw him till the moment he died. And that'll cover it, nothing else. Don't get wordy or clever about it. He was just very dignified, and I loved him for it.
Paddy represents an awful lot of what we do here at the park, and he'll be greatly missed.
The team constantly evaluate the quality of life of all the primates in their care. It's not simply about their health and diet, but also their relationships with other animals sharing their lives. Sometimes it becomes clear a move to another group might be for the best. In the past few weeks, there's been lots of comings and goings at the orangutans. Female Roro made a move from the relative calm of Tuan's house to the hustle and bustle of the nursery group and its boisterous youngsters. While Xiao Kuai and adopted daughter Awan moved across to join Tuan. Roro's life in the nursery started with an introduction to the two eldest boys, Sylvester and Jin. Jin was so excited to meet a new female, he barely let Roro out of his sight. Next, it was time to meet the babies of the group, Bulu Mata and Rika. It went well, although the two little ones were initially a little wary of Roro, but were very curious when she started doing a spot of housekeeping. Roro clearly has high standards. She wasted no time giving the place a good old scrub and making sure everything was how she liked it.
Roro spent last night with Bulu and Rika and Sylvester, so that's really kind of solidified things with the babies, and they seem really relaxed this morning in her presence, which is great, so good progress there. So this morning we're going to introduce her to Oisin. We'll keep Sylvester and probably Jin in the mix just to dilute things a little bit, but we've put the babies into the playroom just so that we can gauge initially how things are going to go between Roro and Oisin, with a view to then opening up later on if all goes well.
Meeting fellow female Oisin could be the trickiest part of the whole move for Roro. Oisin is a strong, stubborn female who's not keen on change, and she might take against a new adult female. But Cara is optimistic.
Oisin kind of is happy to do her own thing, so hopefully, you know, she'll stay out of Roro's way, and Roro's having such a better time than she was in the group that she was in prior to moving her over to the nursery. But we'll have to see how things go and whether one of the females emerges as the dominant individual. My money would probably be on Roro for that, and just how that dynamic will work. Fingers crossed, because this could be a really nice group for the youngsters with two very different characters that the babies can benefit from as they grow up.
Oisin is on her guard as Roro enters the room. She's understandably wary of the new female, but shows no sign of aggression. The fact that Jin is sticking to Roro like glue might be helping. Roro seems totally relaxed in her new surroundings and gives Oisin plenty of space. All very positive so far. And Oisin seems happy, especially as Sylvester is giving her some welcome attention. With the group introductions going so well, the team's next move is to encourage all the orangs to go outside. The additional space, climbing frames and hoses might encourage more play and integration. Even little Bulu and Rika decide to venture out for a bit of fun, and soon all the group gets stuck in. Sylvester has finally managed to convince his playmate Jin to stop pursuing Roro and join him in a rough and tumble session. Meanwhile, Bulu has summoned up the courage to play with newcomer Roro, and he's not shy about it. It's great news that Roro appears to have been accepted into the group. It's mainly down to her own clever reading of the situation and her perfect handling of her new housemates. Even Oisin seems quite content, although, true to form, she's never happier than when there's food in the mix. It's been a few days since the park's two new arrivals from Belgium, stump-tailed macaques Freddy and Toto, were introduced to some of their new housemates. Initially, the two boys had only visual and vocal interactions with the 8 other resident stumpies. But then the team put them together with half of the group, including dominant male Sam and dominant female Kelly. There were a few feisty moments at first, but things settled down. Today, the two Belgian Stumpies are about to meet the final two members, Jonathan and Maureen.
To be honest, this is the one we were least looking forward to. Of all the grumpy monkeys, Jonathan is, I love him to bits, but he is the most grumpy in the world. And he has got a tendency not to let things go. So if he gets into a squabble, he'll keep digging and pushing, and rather than sort of backing off. So yeah, bit nervous about Jonathan. And then Maureen's quite a low-ranking female, but she's also got a reputation for being a bit stroppy.
Go, go, go. But I would do them one at a time because that is easy enough to control.
The team are going to let Jonathan in first, so if things do get out of hand, they can police the situation more easily.
Yeah, John's in the tunnel. Gonna let him through now.
At first, Jonathan is wary, particularly with Freddie staying below. Instead, he heads over to greet Sam. They've been the only two boys in the group for a couple of years now, so after a few days apart, it's good to cement bonds. Toto and Freddie watch on, but continue to stick together, although Toto is nervously lip-smacking. With Sam now around to back him up, Jonathan heads over to confront the two newbies. It's typical Stumpy behaviour, with the males making lots of noise and a show of bravado, before females Kelly and then Noreen come over to add their weight.
Boys are having a thing right now.
It's gone quiet. It's a shame that they are mixing a bit more, but that was round one, and we've got a few more rounds to go, I think.
Things are calm enough for the last of the group, low-ranker Maureen, to be introduced. But she doesn't attract that much attention, and most of the group decide to head outside into the enclosure, with the two new boys sticking to each other like glue.
It's been really important for them that they've managed to forge kind of a bit of an alliance, a bit of a bond. Had Toto been completely on his own, he would have felt completely outnumbered, and it's a lot harder for our guys to gang up on Toto when he's got Fred there, kind of backing him up. And Toto hasn't got much in the way of good teeth. No, neither has Sam, neither has John. Whereas Freddie has a good set of teeth, so he's a useful ally to have. Freddie's the one with the...
But all that changes when female Flo barrels in from out of nowhere.
Flo! Fred could do with coming back, really.
With Freddie elsewhere in the enclosure, Sam, Jonathan and Flo gang up on Toto.
Fred could do with coming helping.
With Toto seriously outnumbered, the team decide enough is enough and take action. The situation calms down and the group begin to disperse. Some, like Jonathan, to lick their wounds. The initial introductions are over, and the result isn't a huge surprise for the care team. A bit of a scrap was to be expected, and fairly typical Stumpy behaviour. But in future, it's hoped that this group of 10 will settle down, and although they might not become best of friends, will get along well enough to live together. Two primates who are definitely the best of friends are golden-cheeked gibbons Kim and Tien. Both were born at the park, raised by their families, and had a fantastic start to life. When they were nearing sexual maturity, the team paired them together. 4 years later, they're inseparable. Today, primate care staff member Kat is trying to keep the happy pair busy, exercising their brains as well as their bodies by giving them a newly designed puzzle feeder to crack.
It's quite a simple design. So literally, we put the pole in the bottom, put a food item into there, and then put another pole above. So basically what they have to do is just pull the pole out, The food will then fall down and catch into the basket, and they'll be able to get it whilst they're high up in the tree. So they're naturally working at their food up high where they want to be, so they've got to really be quite agile, holding on, using lots of their different skills and using their brains to try and work out how to get this food out.
Kat thinks she has a pretty good idea of who will solve this monkey puzzle.
Kim's a bit of a bull in a china shop, so I think Tien's more likely to have the patience to sit down and work it out, maybe make a few different attempts. He does tend to really sort of puzzle things through a little bit more than Kim does, so hopefully one of them will work it out, and you never know, she might surprise us.
At first, confronted with the new feeder, Tien is left scratching his head. Kim, however, moves straight in. But, ignoring the challenge, she reaches for the easier pickings Kat has left in their usual feeder. Tien has studied the puzzle long and hard. He's going to give it a go. And he wastes no time in removing some of the plastic tubes. Before reaching in and grabbing his prize, a fresh and juicy slice of melon. He soon devours it and then cleverly solves the final piece of the puzzle. Both gibbons are quite content as they polish off the food on offer, before doing what they do best, swinging on the ropes and through the trees of their magnificent enclosure.